Hello, everyone. Most analysts in nowadays think that their job is to answer stakeholders' question. But in real organization, the best analysts do something very different. They anticipate stakeholders' question before those questions are ever asked. In today's video, I will teach you a powerful framework called the five-layer Stakeholder Question Generator, a thinking system that helps you move from being a report creator to a decision partner. If your dashboards are technically strong but still fails to impress stakeholders or your leadership team, this framework will definitely change how you approach the analysis. Okay, so let's start with a simple reality. Stakeholders really ask the real question, or just to rephrase, sorry for a wrong statement, stakeholders rarely ask the real question. When a stakeholder or a leader asks, why did sales drop? They are not asking for a train chart. Keep in mind, what they are really thinking is you have to understand from that angle. What they might be thinking is that should I be worried? Who is responsible for this kind of thing? If the sales is dropping, who is ideally responsible? What decision do I need to take to either correct this particular situation? The five layer framework helps you uncover these hidden layers systematically. Okay. So, what happens that if you see that all this particular five layers, which we will walk you in detail, that how you have to frame those questions in such a way that all those questions are ready with you to be discussed with your stakeholders or your leadership team. Let's deep dive all those things because when they ask a question, it is simply a tip of the iceberg. You have to go deep, you have to understand all those questions and provide a relevant chart or analysis to support those questions. So, first, what happens? You have to set the context. What or why does this matter? Every strong analysis starts with context. That's something which you might be aware of. If you don't answer why this matter, nothing else matters. Context questions help you understand business relevance and its urgency. Okay, so here are a few sample questions which should be asked to your stakeholders. Why is this topic being discussed now? Okay, is it linked to the target miss, or it's simply a leadership review which you are going to do, or it's an external pressure? Which business object is impacted? Whether it's impacting the revenue growth, or its overall margin, or it's reducing the market share, or it's about customer retention. You have to have your questions around all these particular aspects. What happens if we do nothing? No decision is also a decision. What's the consequences? You have to understand. If no decision is taken, what might be the consequences? Is this one time review or an ongoing concerns? Temporary noise or it's a long term issues? That's something which you should be highlighting or you should be questioning them. Who initiated this question and why? This is a very important concept or perspective rather. Whether a CFO is asking these questions or a sales manager. Accordingly, your question should be drafted or framed to meet that particular audience. What decision timelines are we working with? Whether it's about today, this week, or the next quarter, or what's the time frame? You have to understand or you have to ask questions around it. Most analysts skip this layer and jump straight creating the charts. That's why the work, what you are doing, feels disconnected. So it's very important to understand that you have to ask the relevant question before starting your work. Once context is clear, the next layer is about performance. That's where many analysts thinks they are strong, but often stay too shallow. So, ideally, you should be asking these kind of questions. What metric actually moved? Whether it's the revenue, the volume, margin, conversion ratios, or retention. You have to understand that. Then compare to what baseline, whether it is the last month or some budget or forecast. How big is the change? It's absolute or relatively. 8% drop is meaningless, correct? Without a dollar or rupee or value impact. Correct? Is that change broad based or concentrated? You have to ask whether it is across all the regions or just a few regions which you have to do a more detailed study. Is this trend constant or volatile? Whether it's a 1 month or you are seeing such kind of trend or pattern in past. Are leading indicators showing early warning signs? Whether it's a pipeline, it's a traffic, or it's a demand signal. You have to understand that. Strong analyst ideally qualifies performance precisely, not vaguely. It's very much important. Now, our performance thing is done. Then the next important question on diagnostic layer is why did it happen? This is the most dangerous layer ideally. This is where the assumption sneaks in. Your job is not to guess. Your job is to isolate the drivers. To isolate all those things, you have to have a key questions or relevant questions like which segment is driving the change, whether it's a region, product, or customer type or channels. Is this volume price or mix issue? Or it's a combination. Did something change internally? Whether the pricing, some kind of initiative, some kind of supply or staffing. Did something change externally? Whether it's a competition, market demand, or seasonality. Is this structural or temporarily? Well, can be fixable or it's a fundamental issue. So that's something you have to check with your stakeholders. What evidence supports each hypothesis? It's about data or it's like some kind of intuition which they have. You have to check on that part. Leaders ideally don't trust opinions. They just trust diagnostic which is backed by layer. And it is a very, very important thing to judge. Next is something which you would be looking in the layer 4. That is where analysis separates themselves from dashboard builders. Leaderships think in money, risk, and consequences. It's not about only showing the charts. You should be asking relevant question again in this layer as well, such as what is the financial impact so far? Where it's a revenue loss, it's a margin erosion, or it's a cost increase. You should be aware of that. What is the projected impact if this continues? Next month? Or it's the next quarter? Which one we have to look for the projection? Then the question might be that what business area are more exposed? Whether it's a top customer, it's a high margin products or some kind of strategic regions which you want to concentrate on. Then you can ask, what is the worst case scenario? Leaders always wants to downside clarity. So you have to know what might be the worst cases here. What is the opportunity cost of indication? Means what else could we have invested in? So you have to have or clarity on that aspect as well. How confident are we in this estimates? Assumptions matters. State them clearly. If there are some assumptions, you have to make it clear. If you cannot qualify impact, your insights will not drive urgency. So it's very important that you have to be clear first and then you have to make all those things clear to your stakeholders as well. Then comes the decision layer. This is the layer most analysts avoid, but leaders care about the most. Insights without recommendation is incomplete. In my previous videos, I have discussed how it plays a vital role in our role as a analyst. So you have to have relevant questions again around this, like what decisions are available right now, not hypothetically, practically what all decisions are available. What are the traits of each opinion which you're going to suggest or propose, like growth versus margin, speed versus risk, all those things. Which opinion aligns best with business priorities? You have to know that, whether it's a strategy or it's simply a directional basis, what you have to understand that. What should be done immediately versus later? The sequence matters, right? So you have to know that what you are going to take in next few weeks compared to next month or next quarter. So you have to understand that. Then what data would we monitor post decision? If once we have taken the decision, what all data needs to get monitored so that you can have some kind of strategy around it? What decision do you recommend and why? Analysts should have a point of view as well. Analysis should be there with some kind of point of view around it. Leaders don't expect you to be perfect idly in ideal world. They expect that you should think thoughtfully and in a structured manner. Okay. So what happens that if I have to understand, if you have to understand in a real world project, here's how a top analyst use this in a real life. Okay. So before you start the analysis, write down at least 15 questions which you should be asking the stakeholders across all these 5 layers which we have discussed. Okay. Then once you start the analysis or during your analysis, remove any chart that doesn't answer a question which you have asked earlier. Okay. And then once you are done with that, before presenting, ask yourself, if I were the stakeholder, what should I ask next? So create a storyline or data storytelling telling accordingly. Okay. That plays a very vital role. Now let's quickly understand or see the common mistakes. Okay. So first is whenever we build a dashboard or analysis, these are the mistakes which we should be avoiding. First is always we try to think that we have to wait for stakeholder to ask questions. Avoid that. Show metrics without implication. That's the worst thing which you can do. Don't show any metrics which doesn't have any implication. Always try to provide some kind of recommendation. We always try to avoid recommendation. That's always a wrong thing. Next worst thing what we do is in a single slide we overload it with so many KPIs numbers. Stop or pause and try to think that what all are the main first KPIs which should be shown first, followed by other sets of KPIs. Be clear in that terms. Then the first thing what we do is like assuming that the stakeholder will understand the context clearly. So always start with why it matters and try to drive them through the data or your findings. Great analysts ideally reduce thinking effort for the leaders. They always try to give the leaders the direction quickly through their analysis. Okay. Now, if you remember one thing from this video, just remember only one thing, that you've or your value as an analyst is not in creating the charts what you would be presenting. However, it is in the questions which you anticipate. Okay. That's the very important step. When you idly master this kind of stakeholder questions, your dashboard will stop being simply like a report. They start becoming a decision tool. Try to learn this particular pattern. Try to understand these layers. Try to sit to understand the business problem and draft all these questions before you meet or start building the dashboards. Thank you so much for being with me so far. If this was a useful video, do like this video and subscribe to our channel so that we can bring this kind of mindset which will help you to be successful in your analysis or in the field of analytics. Thank you again. See you soon in the next video.